Hello, everyone. Welcome back to what's coming out in the world of indie. This is your seventh episode, and this week we've got a cracking list as we usually do. Everything from first-person shooters to fun little explorer games to tower defense games. I think there's something for everyone, as I find myself saying each and every week. But that is because we are joined by the wonderful Mike Soak, who makes it his life's goal to find the most diverse set of content to put out for you guys every week. Um, but we're going to dive straight into it because the first game on the list here is one that you actually did a preview for when the demo came out last year on Gaming Sandbox. Orcs. I'm going to throw it over to you because I know you've got a lot to say on this.
Yes. Orcs, first of all, top tier name, straight to the point, adds in a little spelling fun, mixes it up. Perfect. Love it. If you guessed it, you're fighting orcs. Very straightforward, except for it's a tower building roguelike, and it is amazing. I played the demo. It's like an hour, 2 hour long demo. I played it last year for over 10 hours. I would just kept running through the demo. There's so many different builds that you can do, so many different enemies that you can find. Every single time you play, it feels so different, but so fun. I honestly don't understand how we haven't had more tower defense games come out in the roguelike genre yet, because it is like the perfect genre for a roguelike to happen in my opinion.
Hmm.
Because with a tower defense game, like you're not playing for some enchanting narrative or anything like that. You're playing because you enjoy the gameplay. You want to build a big fort and see big monsters try to knock fort down. So when you have the roguelike component, you can just keep doing that. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is that the demo only had like 1/4 of the variation that was allotted, because there's different kingdoms that you can play as different classes and stuff like that. And it
Hmm.
only had the very first one in the very first chapter of the game available. Uh, and it's hard. Honestly, it took me a decent bit to just get adjusted to how the game functions, but the second it clicked, I was just completely enthralled. Orcs is easily one of my most anticipated games of the year, and it will be a day one grab for me, like instantaneous. I will be sitting there refreshing Steam, waiting for the list to go up because
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Orcs looked great, anyways, and your review on it really kind of sold me on the element of use of cards and abilities. And even
Yep. Yeah,
during
so it's the roguelite. So the instead of like most tower defense games, you basically just have like a menu and you spend you like through time, as time goes by, you get resources and you can spend them on whatever you want to place. Whereas in Orcs, it's card based, so you have a deck of cards. You have to get the cards you need, and you can collect new cards as you advance through the different levels and different days, or by completing different tasks in each level. So that's I'm also a really big deck builder fan,
Hmm.
which we'll get to more of that a few games from here. But Orcs really just takes three genres that I like a lot and mushes them together in an absolute perfect combination.
100%. I think as well, tower defense games have always been really interesting to me because I absolutely can adore them and get sucked into them, but they're very few and far between for me.
Yes.
Isle of Arrows was one I played very recently. It was a demo that came out during Summer Games Fest. I just saw it on Steam and picked it up. And honestly, I have dealt about probably 10 hours into that. So I imagine if I go near orcs, God forbid anyone that tries to come near me in the next few weeks. So it's a glowing recommendation from both of us. I think we're fair to say, and it comes out on the 30th of August. God, it's near the end of the month. Jesus.
Yep.
Also coming out on the 30th of August, though, we have Tiny Kin, which I knew nothing about, but I absolutely adore games that use 2D characters on a 3D plane. Spookware
Yep.
taught me that, and I've absolutely been in love with that sort of idea since then. So tell me a little bit more about it.
The easiest way for a lot of people to like immediately understand what Tinykin is just imagine Paper Mario and Pikmin had a baby. It has the art style and movements of Paper Mario. It's that 2D characters in that 3D environment that you were talking about. Very
Mm.
much Paper Mario esque. But you're collecting these little tinykins, these little monster boys, And as you collect more of them, you can do different abilities, different powers, and you're basically trying to take the main character Milo, get back to your home planet, and return back to normal size because you have been shrunk
Mhm.
down to about 3 tinykin size. Uh, it looks adorable. It looks like a lot of fun. The gameplay looks very unique. I'm surprised we haven't gotten more Pikmin-like games. It seems like a genre that uh, indie developers especially would thrive in. So I'm happy that we're getting Tinykin.
Mhm.
And I love indie games that use the Paper Mario-esque art style. Paper Mario is one of my favorite games. Bug Fables is one of my favorite indie games. So that's the initial thing that sold me on Tinykin is I saw the art style and my brain just went Paper Mario. Um, and even though the gameplay is not like Paper Mario, that's fine with me, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you gave me a good art style, cute little characters. I'm sold immediately, as we know from week in, week out here.
Yes.
Um, but alongside that, I mean, you can show me something extremely interesting and unique, but somewhat familiar, and I'll be completely enthralled. The next game on the list, Immortality, comes out on the 30th of August as well, and this really draws me in because I have a very soft spot for sort of choice-based, sort of interactive movies. Now, I want you to talk about this a little bit first because I have an interesting tidbit of knowledge that I learned while trying to research this game. So please go for your little segment on this.
Absolutely. So, Immortality is the newest game from the fantastic mind of Sam Barlow. If you're unfamiliar with his name, you might know him for games like Her Story and Telling Lies. They are interactive movies, typically with very surreal and mind warping narratives that make you really ponder what is actually going on. And Immortality seems to be taking that to another level. So, this is the first movie experience in a trilogy, and
Mhm.
it's in canon in the game. It's a trilogy as well. You're following Marissa Marcel, who is an actress who filmed 3 movies, a trilogy, and then disappeared. She was never seen or heard from again. We don't have a whole lot of information about the exact happenings of what's going to go on in the game because obviously its main appeal is the narrative. They aren't going to spoil anything for you from that. But knowing Sam Barlow, the acting is going to be phenomenal. The gameplay is going to be probably pretty similar to Her Story and Telling Lies, but it's going to have a lot of layers to it. It's going to make people think. It's going to have people coming back to it. And while Her Story and Telling Lies might not be the greatest hits ever, you won't hear everyone talking about them. Anyone who has played them, they every single time I have posted about either of those games, there are people in the comments who are like, that game blew me away. Like that game
Mm.
is unlike anything else that I have ever experienced. And Immortality is going to be the exact same thing, I believe.
100%. I mean, obviously, this isn't based off a real actress.
No.
But the funny thing about it was, in order to find that out, I looked up the name Marissa Marcel, and for for the purpose of both brevity and to keep this at a PG rating, it turns out Marissa Marcel is an adult film actor, who I found many of her accredited work on IMDb, which I didn't realize they put them there. But um,
Yep.
yeah, that's just backup for if anyone worries about my search history. But let's move swiftly on from that. That obviously comes out on the 30th of August. Also on the 30th of August. Oh wait, do you hear that? I think that's is there a siren for Japanese Game of the Week? Oh my god. What is this coming up? Dusk Diver 2 with the most English sounding name probably taken completely off. It's probably got a much better name in Japanese, but I'm sure you will be able to tell me all about this, Mike, as an expert.
um, yeah, so Dusk Diver 2 and Dusk Diver 1 are a really interesting action RPG type game series, and I'm really enthralled by Dusk Diver 2 because a lot of their UI and art style improvements from the first game seem to be heavily drawn from Persona 5 to the point where if I showed you the mini map from one and the other, most people probably couldn't tell me which one was from which I'm fine with because Persona 5 has some of the best art direction in video games, period.
Mhm.
Um, it does different though. It has very much action gameplay, almost hack and slash esque, but maybe not quite as smooth or stylish as you would expect from a game like Devil May Cry. Um, But yeah, it is um a world altering event basically unleashes in the game that causes people and energy to manifest into these chaos monsters,
Mm,
and you take part of a squad of super powered humans basically that's goal is to restore order to the world is basically the basics synopsis of what the game entails. um, but anyone who's a fan of action games, anyone who's a fan of stylish JRPGs, this is definitely something to have on your radar. Even though we're getting a gajillion of those released this year, this one seems to still be standing out on its own.
100%. I think if a Japanese game trailer makes me wonder what have I just watched, it's probably worth playing. Because I am clearly not the target audience, unfortunately. But that is great for people who enjoy those sorts of games. But what game I do like, and a game that we both absolutely adore, which is up next, probably my indie game of last year, tied with maybe, oh, what would I say? Maybe Death's Door, and the name is blanking on me of the other game, the Golden Rule game. What's it called?
The Forgotten City.
Forgotten City. Yes, that's the one. But maybe Inscription is up on top now because I would never forget Inscription's name. Um, I know if you've been living under a rock, Mike, how would you describe Inscription without giving too much away?
Inscription is a deck building roguelike, kind of similar to Slay the Spire, in the sense that you have a map that you look at to choose which route you take. So you can have like a question mark for a mystery event. You can have a combat symbol, knowing that you're going to go into combat. It's very different from Slay the Spire in every other essence, though. Slay the Spire really doesn't have much of a narrative. Inscription is the narrative is, I mean, the gameplay is fantastic, don't get me wrong,
Mm,
but the narrative, the story that unfolds is an absolute wild ride. And I don't know, it's like really hard to talk about Inscription without spoiling Inscription.
mhm,
Because even the marketing for the game only like shows you the first hour of the game and nothing past that, because of how many twists and turns this game has, how many times it just absolutely flips what you thought the game originally was. um but it is very much a psychological horror game, in a lot of aspects of its design. If you are a fan of tabletop RPGs, it takes a lot of inspiration from those as well.
mhm,
I think it is a game that everybody should experience. Inscription, even if you aren't a fan of deck builders, even if you aren't a fan of psychological horror games, Inscription does things differently than any other game I have experienced, and it is something. It is a one of a kind experience. In all honesty, I will be repping Inscription till the end of time because it deserves all praise. It's absolutely fantastic. I already played it on PC. I will be getting it again on PlayStation. I hope it makes it to more platforms. Put the game everywhere. It
mhm,
deserves to be experienced by absolutely as many people as possible. There's a reason why a lot of people didn't maybe hear about Inscription last year, but then Game of the Year time came around and you saw Inscription on so many websites' Game of the Year lists.
mhm.
It's mind bending, and it's just it's so good. It's so good.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Inscription is I like it's one of those games that it really doesn't do it justice just describing it to someone. Like as you mentioned, everyone should
Yeah,
really
it's
experience it.
so hard to describe it.
Yeah, because the mere nature of describing what Inscription is actually spoils it. So it's really difficult to sell to
Like, you
people,
can't
but
even talk about the gameplay.
no.
Like, even in the initial stage, in the first world, it will change itself constantly. You can't talk about shit about this game because even with Inscription and like the gameplay and everything, like figuring out every aspect of the game is part of the experience.
Mhm.
Like you can't talk. You can show the little teaser trailer that shows people a little bit of gameplay, but like they ask you any questions, you're like, you just gotta play it.
Yeah, 100%. I think we'll leave it at that because if I talk anything more about it, I run the risk of spoiling major elements that
Yeah, we might
really,
just have to
really.
do a spoiler cast episode.
Well, yeah, no, I am 100% convinced once this comes out, we will come back to Inscription. Because the beauty of it coming onto more consoles is more people will have played it, and we can have more of an in-depth discussion about it without spoiling too much. Or we will spoil loads, but we'll give a very big prior
Yeah, we'll
warning.
give a fair warning. Be like, hey, this is gonna have Inscription spoilers.
Yeah. So obviously that comes out on the 30th of August, as I mentioned. 100% worth picking that game up if you haven't played it before. It'll be well worth the money you spend on it. Next on the list, though, this game really scratches, first of all, called Skathe. It comes out on the 31st of August. It really scratches that sort of Doom Eternal feel I have. One of those sort of games, similar aesthetic, similar gunplay. What do you know about it? What makes it sort of pop for you, Mike?
So, like you said, it is essentially Doom and Doom
Mm,
Eternal, like Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal. Same aesthetic, similar art styles, similar weaponry. One thing that's really cool about it, in a way that it is different than Doom, is that it has drop in, drop out online co-op. So you
amazing.
don't have to make like a lobby and everyone join and you enter, and if anyone breaks away, then the game closes and everyone goes out. Your friends can drop in and join you at any point in the game. They can jump out when if they have to go and do something, and you can keep playing. Your progress doesn't pause. Your progress doesn't stop. It's a very smooth transition. And for something like this, I've always wanted more of a co-op-esque Doom game because Doom's so fun. It has such great movement, gunplay's phenomenal, but the multiplayer aspects of the Doom games haven't really been that great. I'd really like to just go through these big arenas of shooting demons with my friends, and Skathe offers that. So any fans of Doom, Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, look into Skathe.
Yeah.
I could just take out all dialogue, all words, and show somebody who has not seen Doom or Skaith and be like, "Tell me which one's Skaith and which one's Doom," and they would not be able to tell me. It's very similar.
Mm,
This is a Doom-like, essentially. It is the type of game that you would see people fighting on Twitter because it is a rip-off of Doom, which I don't give a shit about. The more Doom in the world, the better place the world is.
yeah. I mean, we're getting a lot of that sort of I suppose, not clones, but interpretations of the Doom formula. We had it recently with Shadow Warrior 3, and now we have it with
Yep,
Skate, and there's a number of other games that take on that sort of level of combat, which it's a great system to begin with. So, I mean, the more places it's in, the more experiences you can have, the better with it. Um,
exactly.
but that rounds off August, and then we go into September, which is a big month. Ooblets. I absolutely love the name. I love the gameplay, everything about it. Tell me more, Mike. Tell me more.
Yeah, Ooblets was a game that I was expecting you especially to really be drawn to. But Ooblets is basically a town life and farming type management sim akin to your Harvest Moon, Story of Seasons, Stardew Valley, Animal Crossing type games.
Mhm.
Except for instead of just growing vegetables, you're growing these little cute monsters called ooblets, and then they follow you around town as you clean up the town and farm and all this stuff. And instead of fighting things, you compete in dance offs, which is absolutely adorable. But it is a very cute game. I think it's something that a lot of people will find enjoyment in. I find it really funny because this kind of town life management genre is something that people of all walks of life seem to enjoy. Like you don't really see people being like Stardew Valley. I don't care about that. It's sold over 15 million copies. It's a hit. This genre is a hit. Animal Crossing has sold well over 20 or 30 million copies. People love these games.
Mm,
And Ooblets seems to offer all of those same draws that the rest of the genre offers while throwing its own spin on it. So you're training these little Ooblets, you're raising them, farming them, competing in dance offs that have like card based mechanics to them a little bit. It's a very cute, very unique, and I'm going to be interested in showing my wife it because I know that she's going to love it because she's looking for something new to scratch that Stardew Valley itch.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm going to be selling this game completely up until the end of time just so I can say ooblets. Um,
Ooblets.
it's just such a satisfying word to say. But it's not the only cute game coming out on the 1st of September. Also, alongside it, we have another. Oh my god, my heart shook when I saw this trailer. I love it. Restless Soul, cute little
Yep.
ghost boy, 8-bit sort of style. Oh god, I don't. You don't need to sell me on this, but for anyone who maybe doesn't know what it is, please throw it at them.
Absolutely. So Restless Soul is it's another 2D characters in a 3D environment type game. Instead of being an adventure game like Tinykin or an RPG like Paper Mario, it is a bullet hell game. Which so think of more like Enter the Gungeon or something like that, where there are bullets everywhere. You need to not be hit by them, and you also need to shoot the other things with your own little bullets.
Hmm.
But it's a comedy. It's about a ghost who obviously died and entered the afterlife. You're introduced to it by the Grim Reaper himself, and you go, "This kind of is dull. I don't really like it here." So you begin on your journey to come back to life, essentially, to escape the afterlife.
Hmm.
It's very funny. The trailer alone, if you watch it, there's like a 45-second trailer out there. Joke after joke after joke. The character's funny. The people that he interacts with are all trying to give him a hard time. I'll send you to the afterlife. Is that even a thing? It's just it knows what it is. It's a little comedy about a ghost trying to come back to life, and it embraces all of that in its writing. The gameplay looks fun as well. I'm a big fan of bullet hell type games, and it doesn't look like it requires as much of a precision skill as Enter the Gungeon does. Like Enter the Gungeon is a pretty tough game for
Yeah.
a lot of people. Restless Soul seems to be more take that more onto a casual aspect, which I'm going to enjoy because Enter the Gungeon makes me rage, and very few games make me rage.
Mhm.
And there's going to be puzzles and all this stuff. It's an adventure game with some bullet hell mechanics, but you're going to experience this uh, comedy about escaping basically death.
Mhm.
And you get to play as a cute little ghost. And I love games where you get to play as a cute little ghost. And that seems to be kind of becoming a new indie dev trend. I think I have like 7 games on my calendar for the next year and a half where you're basically playing as a little ghost. And I'm not
Yeah.
complaining. I like it,
No.
but it's funny.
Indie pop-ups for this year. Ghosts and golf seem to be the big things.
Ghosts
Um,
and golf. Now we
all
just
we
need
need.
it. Now instead of ghost and goblins, we need just ghost and golf.
Ghost and golf.
That needs to be a
Um,
game.
but rounding it off, obviously every week we go on to the 3 games that you would most recommend. Now I reckon I can guess them, so I'm gonna give it a go,
Ooh.
and
Okay.
you tell me if I'm right. So
Okay.
first off the bat, I know 2 of them is going to be Orcs and Inscription. The
Correct.
third one now, this is the big one. Do I reckon? I think, to be brutally honest, I think it's going to be Ooblets.
It's not.
Oh, so close. What was it?
Do you want a second guess, or do you want me to tell you?
No, I've lost. The dignity's gone.
It's Skathe.
Skate. Okay, that's good. That's definitely very far off from Ooblets.
I mean, I'm also very excited for Ooblets, but also I love Doom, and I we just got so much Quake news the other day at QuakeCon,
Hmm.
and ID themselves, ID Software, id Software, whatever, they said that they're working on their next big project, but they won't tell us what it is. So my brain right now is just Doom.
Yeah.
So then I see Skathe, and I'm like, Doom! So it's gonna scratch that itch while I pray to the old gods that we get new Doom news soon, or Quake news, or literally anything from id, because they're amazing.
Yeah. 100%. Well, that rounds us off for this week. There's certainly a fantastic list as always. Thank you very much, Mike. When it comes to games next week, if there's anything we've missed out on, please let us know in the comments below. And if you've played any of the games by the time you come to this video, please let us know your thoughts on them as well. I'd be really interested to hear people's thoughts on these amazing indies coming out this week. But until then, we will see you next week, and goodbye.